Hello and welcome to this edition of Velocity Kinetics, and this edition I'm angry. Very angry. Why am I angry? Well, aside from work-related stuff, as in just really busy and not a lot of time for a break, what's making me really angry is SUVs. Now, you will have seen a few weeks ago when the new Ford Puma was announced. You'll have seen the quite angry and agitated post about another SUV. Now, what annoys me to death at the moment with SUVs is how fucking pointless they are. You've got Seat advertising its urban vehicles and they're big, chunky, mini off-roaders. It's like, why do you need a mini off-roader? In the Seat range they've got plenty of good city cars. The Leon and the Ibiza. They're two very good, very capable cars that outdo the SUV equivalent. You've got Ford coming in with the Puma, as mentioned. I flatly refuse to call it the Cougar. I call it the Cougar, the K-U-G-A, the Cougar. And then they've got the Edge, although the Edge is more of an proper off-road vehicle. You've got Land Rover, the Evoque, and the Discovery Sport that couldn't get very far through a muddy field. You've got Volvo with the XC90, the XC60, great people movers, but they're pretty shit at going off-road. You've got the BMW X4, X3, X5, X7. The list just goes on and on and on. And what annoys me, the automotive section might go, well, this is what people want. These cars are selling the most. They're selling the most because that is all that is available. For instance, now this is not a criticism of Suzuki at all. It's their business model, they decide what is right. But for instance, for me, I will be a reluctant SUV owner, more because I haven't got the capital to get out of being a Suzuki owner. Not that that's a bad thing, being a Suzuki owner, because they're great little cars. However, after the Baleno, if I want a bigger car, or if I don't want to leave them, I've got to go up to an S-Cross or a Vitara. I want a saloon. I want a S60, a Mondeo, an Alfa Giulia, or something like that. And it kills me that that is not going to be an option. These SUVs are sold on the argument that they are safe. And yes, they might be Euro NCAP safe. But as with any car you drive, it is only as safe as the driver. If you drive your SUV, your Qashqai, your Duke like a fucking knobhead, it's not safe. I can't even put into words how, or very eloquently at least, as eloquently as I'd like, I can't put into words just how pointless I think the whole area is. Now, they don't offer an awful lot, because if you can get more in a conventional estate, you're probably more comfortable in a saloon, and you're probably going to be better at parking a hatchback or a saloon or an estate than you are in an SUV. Most SUV owners, like people with the Dukes, and Qashqais are the worst for this. Don't observe the gap between cars when they're following. Not that it's excluding saloon owners, etc., etc. They're also very bad for it, but it's more noticeable with your SUVs, because when you're looking in your rearview mirror in traffic just to see what's going on behind you, as you should do, just to keep yourself aware, suddenly to have a grille just filling up your mirror that's not a lorry is quite intimidating. I was pricing up the other day a car that I believe one of my family members has bought. And if it is what I think it is a £35,000 car. And it doesn't offer anything more that you could have gotten for less on a BMW 2 Series. It's a Ford Cougar, as I understand it, and you could have got more on your BMW 2 Series. You could have got and paid less for it. You could have gotten, if you could have lived without a couple of the things, you could have paid half the price and had yourself an S-Cross. Could have saved yourself nearly 10, 12 grand and had an S-Cross. I properly love a good saloon. Jag, I don't understand why Jag went into the SUV market. I don't understand why Alfa have, why Lamborghini have, why Maserati have. What is the point in having a car styled as if it's going to go off-road if it can't? The only people who should be able to go off-road are your Land Rover Defenders, your Discoveries, and your proper Range Rover. Not the Range Rover Sport, even though I know it can. It shouldn't even exist in my book. But, anyway. These SUVs are killing some other sectors of the automotive industry. Some providers seem to only go that way, and I don't like it. I'm with Chris Harris on this. I very, very much so. He's been very vocally anti-SUV. Tanner Faust was very vocally anti-SUV. I'm not sure if he still is, but I know in some early Top Gear USA he was very anti-SUV. Don't get me wrong, they have their plus points, namely probably for some models that they are cheap, like your Hyundai, I think it's Hyundai Kona, that's quite cheap. Your Kia Niro is very cheap. So I appreciate, and things like the S-Cross and Vitara, they're pretty reasonably priced for what they are, and to a lesser extent the EcoSport, but to me that's just a monstrosity of a vehicle in the first instance. So what I am imploring everyone to do is just don't jump straight to your SUV the next time you're changing car and go, oh, I want a Duke, no, I want a Nissan Duke. You could probably get something far better in a Ford Focus or Subaru Impreza and pay about the same amount of money. If you want, oh, but I need 7 seats, Vauxhall Zafira, Ford Galaxy, the bigger BMW 2 Series. I don't know if it's got a special name, but I know it's the bigger version of their MPV. That has got all the seats in the world in it, or the VW Charan, or the Seat Alhambra. You need 7 seats, get one of them. You want, if you're like, yeah, but I like it, fine. If the automotive industry is going to consistently thrust SUVs down our throats, then we need to improve the way we drive. Because the number of SUVs in car parks that aren't parked properly, that drive around as if they are the small dinky cars. I was following one through some roads near where my granddad used to live when he was alive. When I was coming back from Bury St Edmunds, I was going between Bury St Edmunds and Thetford, and I'd gone via Risby. I was following someone who was driving a Qashqai, and they were driving it as if it was a little car, and the way it was leaning, and it just wasn't able to cope with it. It was almost like, I don't know, I just don't know what to put it. And then, like I say, to come back to the safety angle, it's only as safe as you drive it. For some people, yes, an SUV might be the answer, particularly for some people who have difficulty getting in and out of their vehicle for whatever spinal injury or leg injuries or this long-term illness. And I appreciate for some people who are wheelchair-bound, an SUV might be the only option because of being able to get in comfortably and what is available on Motability. You know what? That's fine. If that's what's available on Motability, fine. Can't really argue with it. I mean, I will argue in my head, but ultimately that may not even be your first choice of vehicle. But there we are. But for some people, they get stuck in their head that I need more ground clearance. What do you need more ground clearance for? Again, a family member of mine, he got stuck. He's got a medical condition, but he got stuck on this idea that he needed more ground clearance. And you don't need more ground clearance. You need a higher roofline. If you have more ground clearance, you've got to step up to get in the car. Where if you've got a higher roofline, you can just get in. And again, I appreciate people's budgets and things may not make that possible, but I'm just so fed up with them all. I've nearly been killed when being a pedestrian by so many SUVs. I've nearly had my cars, both Bolinos and the Swift, totaled by SUVs. I've had them squeeze into parking spaces next to me when there was no space for them at all. There was barely space for another car like mine to go in next to them. I've had enough I really have had enough. Now I appreciate some people will turn around and say, well, why don't you just buy a saloon then? But the problem is the rest of the automotive market is not going that way. Now some people might say it was weird I called out Volvo in this, given that I'm quite a Volvo fan and wish I had one. Would kill to have one almost. Yes, of course, but it comes back to that argument of, yes, you might buy a Volvo XC90 on the basis it's safe. Yes, it might have all your hybrid systems on, it might have the T8 equipment on it. It's not any of that if you're not driving it accordingly. And then you've got all the fact that then they're not on standard sized rubber. It will cost a fortune to replace the rubber if you have a puncture or if you've just worn them out. It's not cheap on a saloon or a hatchback or anything like that, but it's even more expensive because they're usually a hell of a lot bigger. If you've got £30,000-40,000 to spend and you need a big family car, get a Volvo V60, get a Volvo V90, get a Subaru Legacy, Ford Mondeo, the Alfa Giulia. Man, I wish I could afford an Alfa Giulia. Never going to happen, but unless Alfa are feeling nice, please. You know, I've just had enough of the whole industry forcing down our throats what they think we need, when it's a case of you only think we need it because that's all you sell, and because we need a car, that's all we're buying. It's a never-ending circle. What was it called? Slash Drive, I think it is. Or was it Drive, whatever you want to call it, on Facebook. I saw an article of theirs the other day. Can't remember if I shared it onto Velocity Kinetics, but I saw an article of theirs the other day, and it said that most people in sort of my age bracket, sort of 20, 30, sort of what people would class as millennials, don't want the SUVs anymore. It's the older baby boomer generation who seem to want them. And because there are more of them than us, and more of them with more financial clout, those are the vehicles that are being made. So therefore, we have to deal with those cars. Now, I'm going to stop that point there because I could easily wander off into Brexit and all sorts of tangibly related comments. But what is Jag doing making an SUV? Answer me that. Why are Jaguar doing it? They shouldn't be. Why are Alfa doing it? Make us another saloon, have a nice 2-saloon lineup. Make a killer estate out of the Giulia. I'm sure you could probably make a gorgeous shooting brake out of it if you put your minds to it. And have probably a pretty big class-leading boot to go with it. Stop with the coupe SUV movement. The vehicles are bloody useless. You've got a jacked up vehicle on a coupe body that doesn't really offer an awful lot of anything. Who last said I needed to get my coupe across a field? Aside from the 2-door Range Rover, which is would probably be technically classed as a coupe. But who needed that? You know, why? Just why? Just why? I can't. I just can't wrap my head around it. And like I said, there may be a lot of finances involved, there may be a lot of money at stake for people buying them, and that's why they choose to do it. But I implore you, as I've implored in previous videos, I think in particular when I did the car buying terminology video, I think it might have been Velocity Kinetics 41 or 40 maybe. Do your research. Look, don't be afraid unless you're committed to finance and haven't really got the option to break free and go somewhere else. Research. Don't be afraid to go elsewhere. Even if you end up coming back to the vehicle you were at, have a look to know what you're missing. Just dip your toe in. And I just want our automotive industry to go back to making sensible cars. Now, before someone says you just ranted on about nothing for however long it is, the timer hasn't gone off to say it's been 20 minutes yet, but before someone says you've ranted on about crap for that long, let me put it to you another way. If these SUVs were a good idea, why didn't they happen before they did? Why did we go the whole of the 90s with a Volvo 240 or big Volvo estates, big BMW estates and so on, being the biggest car on the road? Why did we go the whole of the 80s in a similar fashion, and so on and so forth. Why was it for years that the only cars you could get that would go off-road were Jeep, Land Rover, or maybe some other niche manufacturer that you've never heard of? Why does Rolls-Royce need to do an SUV? If you want comfortability and to go off-road, it's a Range Rover all the way. Maybe an Overfinch mod if you've got money burning in your pocket. But it's a Range Rover that you get. You want to go hardcore off-roading, Range Rover or Discovery. Not sure about the Jeeps at the moment, but I've not seen many reviews about them going proper hardcore off-roading. You know, you're not going to get your X5 up that same hill. Your Porsche Cayenne will get a fair way up there, but it'll still get stuck. Range Rover will be the only one that'll make it. Even your Jimny will make it a hell of a lot further than most things would. Your G-Wagon. Jesus Christ, what a brilliant vehicle, but why do you need an AMG version of it? Plus, if we're going hybrid and battery powered, those cars are so much bigger and the centre of gravity is so much higher, you're creating yourself one hell of an engineering challenge to get them to work. Now, Polestar 2, the Volvo shoot-off electric saloon, is quite high off the ground because of where all the batteries are packed. Now, if that's what Volvo have run into when they've done that, then what is anyone else going to run into when the car is already a lot higher off the ground? Like I say, I just want people to start having a bit of common sense when they're doing this. I know a lot of people say, well, people don't have common sense anymore. And yes, maybe that might be true. But it doesn't stop me wanting to change the automotive world and stop the onslaught of the SUV. It seems to be an insatiable and, for me, bile-inducing area of the industry that doesn't seem to offer anything. Doesn't seem to offer anything classy, doesn't seem to offer anything that can handle very well, doesn't seem to offer anything that can do very much of anything. A standard Ford Cougar will get just as stuck on the beach at Long Sands, close to high tide, as my Baleno would. If anything, my Baleno might be a little bit better off because it's a lighter vehicle, but that's it, and even then it will probably still get very stuck, and you're only probably talking about 5 or 10 metres further up the beach between them. It baffles my mind, and I can honestly say that I'm not the only one that feels this way. A lot of you might feel the same. It's another way to look at it. We are at Velocity Kinetics. We are looking forwards to the future, electronics and hybrids. Aside from the Lexus RX 400, not that many of these vehicles are hybrid. In fact, they've been very slow to adopt it. Russ, he said he's got a hybrid Toyota SUV, and that, I think he said he's had that for quite a while, or he did have it for quite a while. I can't remember. It's been a while since he's talked about it. But you know, most of the industry are not hybrid. Volvo, until their recent push on all the hybrid, their XC90 was quite a big gas guzzler. Mercedes vehicles have been quite big gas guzzlers. Volkswagens have been massive gas guzzlers, and Audis have been as well, although their e-tron does look to be a bit promising. Maybe this is a rant born out of being really hot, as I'm probably sweating like nobody's business at the moment. It's probably a rant born out of someone who just doesn't like a certain type of car. But that's time. So I'm sorry guys if it's been really ranty, but let me know in the comments if you agree with me. Look after yourselves, drive safe, keep safe in the heat, and we'll see you again soon. Hey guys, sorry about the previously ranty bit of the video. I was quite agitated, it's quite hot, I'm quite tired, but I still stand by a lot of the points that I made in that video. Most of those cars in the SUV market can't really do half the things they're claiming to do. Again, sold on the safety angle, they're only as safe as you drive them. So, you know, you could drive a tank, but it's a killing machine in the wrong hands. Maintenance on them is so expensive, particularly when it comes to tyres, because they've not got standard rubber on them. they're just in general quite more expensive. For instance, the Ford Kuga that was specking up on the background, that was £33,000, but you could get the same on a Mondeo. Granted, it's the old model, but you can get the same on a new Mondeo, even if you went up to the estate for an extra £1,000 for about £23,000. Like, why are you paying the extra £10,000? And as I say, it's just a sector of the market that doesn't make a lot of sense, really, and it's just been foisted upon us. I think we ultimately need to start looking at saloons and estates more, because you can get more for your money and just in general a better vehicle. Plus, the centre of gravity in a lot of those cars is too high. A lot of people drive those cars as if they are smaller and lower to the ground, which they're not. So we'll see. Apologies, the camera keeps moving. I've not got a very good shoulder, and it's not long since I've woken up, as you can probably tell by my countenance and the fact that I'm doing this quietly in the kitchen when the tumble dryer is going. So, you know, at least I've gotten dressed. That's a start to the day. But something else I wanted to mention at the end of this video. You might have seen at the bottom of the last blog there was a PayPal link. It was paypal.me/velocitykinetics. We were going to go over to Patreon, and so you guys could donate and help us that way, but I can't commit to the extra content. More because I would never see Sarah, and Russ would end up having to give up half of his free time, if not more of it, or whatever he's got in his schedule. It just suddenly becomes so much more condensed. So what we're going to do instead is, for now, I mean, we might still go over to Patreon eventually, but given that on Patreon you get exclusive discounts, free extra content, and so on and so forth, it's not really something we can do just yet. But the PayPal link, it'll help us buy things like that camera and three-prong tripod that sticks onto the car that I posted on the Velocity Kinetics page the other day. So, you know, if you help donate, whilst I'm not saying it's going to get us GoPros and directional mics and boom mics and the like, it'll potentially pay for maybe even getting off WordPress and get into our own website. It might be able to pay for better equipment. Might even be able to pay for us to hire some vehicles to actually do some decent road tests with. Although obviously we've got to see how this first road test that I'm planning to do goes, and if it works, then we'll go from there. But like I say, it also just simply helps us potentially look at getting some merchandise out there. I mean, we haven't got an official logo as such. If any logo designers out there would like to do us one for free, and obviously get the credit for it, then when we start getting money through, then we can obviously discuss terms. But you know, if anyone wants to do that, then that would be nice. So yeah, like I say, I do apologise about this one being very ranty. Please donate on the link. I'm not going to start slapping it here, there, and everywhere, because you know, I appreciate in times like this, lots of people haven't got the money spare to even donate to a charity that they want to donate, even if it's just their own charity. Never mind helping someone else get off the ground and on their feet with something else. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed this green screen edition. Like I say, I do apologise about some of the noise in the background. I kept having all sorts of problems with After Effects in this one. I don't know why it was so bad, but then again, it's been a while since I've been on the green screen. Some of my skills for the editing have probably dropped, but the computer did just crash time after time after time. But from reading stuff online, it looks like it's something to do with the fact that I was trying to use an 85GB background on a 1GB video, and the render quality probably meant it was going to be like a 200-300GB output. So there we are. So that's, as I said in the other one before I went off in a huff, look after yourselves, drive safe, just take extra care in this heat when you're driving, and just enjoy the British summer for those of you in Europe, and for those of our community who are not in Europe or England, just enjoy life.